Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from Departure Old 6400. And it's titled, Am I the A-hole for making my brother's wedding reception about me? I, 25 female, am a bridesmaid to the fiancé, 30 female, of my older brother, 31 male. She and I aren't particularly close, but I don't dislike her and I suspect she might have asked me because I'm my brother's sister. I of course agreed, and I was even fine with her putting me in whatever style she wanted, so long as it didn't involve me cutting/dyeing my hair, any major changes. It's not my day and I can suck up an ugly dress and act like it's gorgeous if that makes her happy. The issue, however, is that I'm a wheelchair user. I know that the wedding venue is fine for me as it's our local church, totally accessible, so all good. It's the venue being used for the reception that worries me. I asked her where the reception was going to be and if it was accessible for me and had an accessible bathroom. Just covering my bases. She didn't get back to me. I figured she was busy, so left it a week or so before chasing her up again to re-ask. She told me she wasn't sure, so I asked where it was and she told me. I ended up looking up the building and my heart sank. It is an old building, not accessible at all for me, and no bathrooms I could feasibly use either. I told her this and she got very upset, saying my brother had told her that he'd cover the cost and she should just pick whatever she loved and that she loved this. She then went on to suggest that we could just have someone carry me into the building and my family or the other bridesmaids could help me use the bathroom when needed, which the very idea of it mortified me. I'm not about to agree to being carried in and needing help to go to the bathroom. I ended up giving her two options. If she wanted me at the reception, she needed to pick somewhere that was accessible. If she didn't pick somewhere accessible, then I'd of course still be a bridesmaid at the wedding, but I'd have to skip the reception. She got upset at this as she feels like everyone, especially my family, will notice my absence and question it and then make her look bad. She then told me I was making this about me, which wasn't fair when it was her day. I won't lie, at this point I was enraged. I wanted to tell my brother to let him sort this, but I wasn't about to start shit between them over this. I pointed out to her that yes, this was her day and I had no intention of making it about me. However, by marrying my brother, she was joining our family, and she needed to realize that she was not as sensitive as she thought she was, and suggesting that I be carried into the building and aided going to the bathroom was downright insulting. This led to a larger fight, and she told me if my brother didn't already know I was her bridesmaid, that she'd not want me to be in it anymore. I called it quits at that point and told her she had my two options, and it was up to her which she wanted. Am I the arsehole here? I didn't feel like asking for the minimum accessibility is a lot, but maybe I'm too upset by the situation and her suggestions to see it clearly. Then OP answered a couple of questions down in the comments. I gave some additional information. So someone asked more about why she hasn't gone to brother yet, and OP said that's a good idea. I may have to talk to him about this. He's not at all inconsiderate, which is why I've been hesitant to get him involved, as I know with most people he'd get angry over this, and I don't want to start a fight with him. He likely assumed it was obvious that any venue needed to be wheelchair accessible. And about the fiancé. I really hope it's not an indication of a cruel streak, as I don't want to think that of her. I'm really hoping it's just the stress of the wedding getting to her, but maybe I should bring it up to him before they get married to be safe. I will likely discuss this with my parents too, and get them to weigh in on this matter. And more about the building/where she lives. The UK, and yes there are, however historic buildings are a grey area, as so long as actual weddings aren't being held there, they don't have to be fully accessible. As we was going through the story, I was thinking, is this some sort of like British castle or some estate house or something like that where there's little to no accessibility at all? Casting my mind back now, I went to a wedding about like 5 years or so ago, and it was like at this manor house the reception was, and to actually get into the front doors, there was like almost like 50 steps to get up to it. It's like, it's just like insane. Thinking of that as well, I've also been to one that's like a modernized castle with like glass windows and stuff, but to get inside you have to like go up, circle like through a turret. And this is an absolutely not the a-hole from me. Just a total lack of consideration for your brother, sister, your future sister-in-law is insane. Saying that you could be carried in, you could be assisted to use the toilet. Come on now. And she knows she's in the wrong as well, because that paragraph where it says she got upset at this as she feels like everyone, especially my family, will notice my absence and question it and then make her look bad. She She then told me that I was making this about me, which wasn't fair when it was her day. She knows it'll make her look bad. And OP gave her options as well. She said, I don't have to go to the reception, or you can change the venue. It's as simple as that. But a couple of additional comments. Not the a-hole. She was completely out of line to ignore your request for information about accessibility, especially given that you're going to be part of her new family and her bridal party. This is on her. You asked early, she ignored you. She can't have the venue she wants, and you are not stopping her, but she has no grounds to demand you attend at a venue that doesn't accommodate you. To be honest, I know that you don't want to get your brother involved, but I think it might be a good idea before this gets too out of hand. Don't tear her apart, but just be very gracious. I'm so excited to be in your wedding, but it looks like the reception is going to be off the table for me due to the venue being inaccessible. Also kind of confused why your brother didn't make it abundantly clear to her that each venue needed to be wheelchair accessible when he's lived with you your whole life. I hope he's not often that inconsiderate either. This isn't making her wedding about you. This is you simply declining an invitation that doesn't actually include you. She should have known better, and so should your brother. OP responds to that and says that's a good idea. I may have to talk to him about this. He's not at all inconsiderate, which is why I've been hesitant to get him involved, as I know with most people he'd get angry over this, and I don't want to start a fight with them. He likely assumed it was obvious that any venue needed to be wheelchair accessible. Key Illustrator says maybe I'm stubborn, but the comment of she told me if my brother didn't already know I was a bridesmaid that she'd not want me to be anymore would have made me call it quits and be a guest at the actual wedding and not the reception due to inaccessibility. You are not the a-hole, but I wouldn't force her hand to change it. I would simply say that I cannot go if that's where the reception is and call it a day. If she chooses to keep it there, then she's choosing for others to notice and ask questions, and she's choosing to exclude you. ViewFan66 says not the a-hole. As somebody who used to work for weddings/functions, people with some kind of handicap or condition are high priority, whether it's a person with dietary requirements or a wheelchair user. You have every right to be upset and displeased about how non-accessible the venue is. This was poor planning on her part, and she should have chosen a better location for the wedding. I understand it's her day, but she insisted you come to the wedding, so not accommodating for you is pretty rude. You even suggested that you'd be at least there for the wedding but not reception. She still was not happy about it, so I guess only had one option left, which was what you did. Your brother should reconsider. She seems very selfish in this post. And one more comment from Pastor Pearl, who says, not the a-hole. 9 times out of 10, if somebody says, I'll look like the bad guy, they are being the bad guy and they know it. Inviting somebody with special needs/accommodations to be part of your event means that you need to provide those accommodations for them. She's saying that her aesthetic is more important than you being included and comfortable, and that's on her. Then OP comes back to update the post and says, hi everyone, here's an update to the situation. As many of you suggested, I checked in with my brother and told him what was going on, and I found out the reason he'd left the reception to her was they'd made an agreement with him covering the ceremony and she'd cover the reception. We're Catholic, so he cared more about the religious side of the event while she cared more about the reception/party, as she's not religious, which isn't a bad thing, just different. I showed him the text and explained what had happened. He was pissed off at her suggestion I be carried into the building and assisted in going to the bathroom. After only a quick search of the venue she picked, he could also see it wouldn't work out for me and promised me he'd resolve this and have a talk with her. He was annoyed at me for not bringing this to his attention sooner and told me I shouldn't worry about his feelings over this. The best part of all this, the venue isn't even booked yet. He had assumed she'd picked out somewhere accessible, but has admitted that he should have ensured that and not thought it a given. So he told me he'll see it changed, and if it isn't, they have a bigger problem on their hands. The part that really got to him though was the admission that she didn't want me as her bridesmaid if he didn't already know, and he told me in that case he didn't want me being her bridesmaid and instead wanted me to be his groomswoman, which I agreed to. I've yet to hear back from him on what's happening, so I can only wait and see. I'll update further when I know more. And one more relevant comment which says basically what she implied was that my brother had told her the sky's the limit and not to worry about the price, as he'd cover it as long as she loved it. I do think he likely just assumed it was a given that it needed to be wheelchair accessible, as they've been together so long and she knows me. And it's one of those updates where I can see there's more going to happen further down the line, with the switching of the bridesmaids to groomswoman. Whilst it's a lovely thing for the brother to do, it just feels like there's going to be some further conflict down the road, right? I could just never imagine saying something like that to, a future family member, someone you love, someone that you should be respecting. Clearly they don't. But turn around saying, oh yeah, I've booked this venue, but don't worry, we'll just get someone to carry you in. We'll just get someone to take you to the toilet and all this. It's just like, oh, come on now. At what point does that go through your head? And you don't think, fuck, that sounded like a shitty thing to say. Holy moly. Anyway, what do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts. That one's got me heated. What do you guys think of that one? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, before we do get into our next story, I have to give you a warning that it does contain abuse, blackmail, violence, and attempted kidnapping as well. It's from the user Throwaway Milks, who says, I'm breaking up with my boyfriend over milk. English is not my first language. I live with my boyfriend and we've had conflicts now for over 5 months because of milk. Approximately 6 months ago, I found out I'm lactose intolerant and it made me change all my diet to avoid stomachache and nausea, in which is working pretty well. I do not expect my boyfriend to change his diet to accommodate me, so we've been buying our own groceries to not impact one another. In my country, plant-based milk and lactose-free products are very expensive, but since I love my cheese and milk, I buy it anyway. The problem is that my partner eats it all when I'm not home and doesn't replace it by buying more. I don't mind sharing food, but it's really disrespectful of him to not leave some for me. He knows lactose is something my stomach can't handle, but he still eats and drinks my products when I'm not around. It made us fight a lot of times, and it's been going on for 5 months until now. This morning, seeing less than 100 ml of my almond milk made me go absolutely crazy, due to the fact I was more than 10 hours awake after my shift in the hospital and just wanted some latte. He keeps saying it's not a big deal, but the fact that he chooses to consume my stuff and refuses to admit his mistakes makes it unbearable. How my boyfriend treats me is absolutely outrageous, and it made me see that he doesn't treat me as an equal due to how much disrespect I've been enduring. I can't take it anymore. As always in stories like this, it's not going to be the milk that's the issue here, it's just his lack of respect towards you. You've got lactose intolerance, and he's using the specific things that you need, using them all and leaving you with absolute nothing. But OP first went on to edit the post and says, I bought a plane ticket to return to my parents' home. My boyfriend, soon to be ex, thinks we're okay since I've been quiet after he yelled at me saying I was overreacting. I've sent a message to my boss and she said it's fine for me to work online. Edit 2. I was thinking about writing a letter to my boyfriend since this was my first relationship. And then it shows the letter. Dear boyfriend, I'm leaving. Leaving a 5-year relationship in which was full of red who couldn't see due to my rose-tinted glasses. My favorite nickname that you gave me was Doll, but now it makes me want to puke. The naive old me thought it was because you loved my dark hair and my love for pink, but now looking back, it was because of how dumb I looked, just to please you by obeying every single word like a spell. I know deep in my heart you will blame me for the breakup or maybe the milk. None of these were the issue. You are the problem. Every time you disrespected me by consuming my almond milk was like someone slowly plucking petals because every single act of disregard made my love for you die. Honestly, this fate couldn't be prevented. We know where we are in each other's hearts. The only mistake was making you the priority when I clearly wasn't. Thank you for being my first, but unfortunately, you won't be my last. Goodbye. Then OP puts an update in the same post around 3 days later and says, yesterday was a bit chaotic, so I didn't have the chance to log on to Reddit. While my ex was at college, me and my 4 friends packed everything I bought over the years. The only thing I left behind was our engagement ring, photos, and the house keys. I left the heavy and the big stuff at my friend's house and she will be shipping it to my parents' home. God bless her. I arrived during the night at my home city and my phone wasn't even on, so for several hours peace was there for me. No more screaming, no more disrespect, and no more stolen milk. Today, when I finally turned on my phone, there was more than 74 calls from him. The messages were between begging me to come home and talk it out, to threatening to expose my nudes, tell everyone about my ADHD, find me and make me regret it. I'm quite afraid of it, so I showed my parents these texts. We're planning to spend several days at our beach home in another state until it is safe and get a police report. I don't know what will happen after I file a police report in our country, Brazil. The police is a failure. OP updates again some days later and says, hi, it's me again, and today I'm going to give you all some bad news. In my last update, I told you about traveling to my beach house in Bahia, and it saved my life. Here is awesome. I miss being sun-kissed and having so much fun at the beach. As I mentioned before, traveling to my family's beach house was what kept my life since my ex-boyfriend wanted to fulfill his promises of bringing me home at whatever cost. Before leaving, I told the building administration that my ex is not allowed to enter the condominium since he's a threat. This morning my parents received a call from the doorman saying that they called the police, but my ex-boyfriend showed up and tried to find me. He was able to enter since I forgot to delete his Face ID. But fortunately this monster was stopped at the reception. At first, he tried to talk to staff saying it was all a misunderstanding and we're back together, but they asked for proof and this idiot couldn't even provide for it. He became very violent and tried to attack the staff, so they called the police. When they started searching him in his bag, they found a pair of knives, gloves, and a plastic bag. Now he's in the preventive detention. I'm still shaken up at the possibility of me being murdered by him, so this will be my final update since we will be suing him. The fact that it was all caused by milk is really shocking because it made me see the man I almost married as a monster. Thank you all for the support and advice. I don't know why, but my comments aren't showing up, but I want to say I'm really grateful for everything. To those who are harassing me at my DMs demanding proof, I only have one thing to say. I don't care what you think. For the sake of my privacy, there won't be any information about the condo. The CCTV footage, nothing. This is confidential information. I'm a victim. Stop harassing me for proof. I think the only way for you all to believe is if I have been really murdered and have my face in the news. Please stop and leave me alone. Holy moly, that went from 0 to 100 real quick in that last update there. I'm so glad that OP got out of that situation when she did, and hopefully that guy gets locked up for a while. That is fucking terrifying. Holy moly. What do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's have one more story. Gee whiz. And our next story comes from AnyCare4207 and says, am I the a-hole for telling my daughter the truth about her father? It says, I got pregnant in college when I was 19. Her father was in the same position. Prior to doing the deed, I told him if anything were to happen, I would not be getting an abortion. He said he understood. When I got pregnant, he refused any contact with my baby or responsibility. He took things further by telling my friends and his family that I planned the pregnancy to trap him, so they wouldn't judge his actions. This was untrue. He paid mandatory child support, but it wasn't much. It was hard, but I love my daughter and wouldn't change a thing. She's wonderful and smart, and she's my whole world. He reached out to me on Facebook saying he wants to be in his daughter's life. He's married now. I did some stalking online. His wife has frequently posted about her infertility struggle. I was against it because he's had no part of her life. It was me who had to drop out of college, work 2 jobs, endure the sleepless nights as a baby and raise her. It was me that kept her belly full and kept her warm. He didn't give a shit. It was me that endured my friends turning against me and his family's harassment, and the judgment of society for being a young mum. And now that he wouldn't be sacrificing his young years, now he's finished partying, now he's got his degree and job, and his wife can't give him kids to complete his picket fence life, he wants the kid I raised for him, knowing he doesn't really have to do any work other than to pick her up now and then. I told him my thoughts, and he got mad saying that I chose to have the baby, not him, which tipped things over for me. I asked him to prove he thought about her, e.g. a college fund he's paid into for a while with her in mind, or car money. He did not, which again proved to me he only gave a shit when he couldn't make more kids. I spoke to my daughter, but I told her the type of person her father is. I told her he has nothing for her, and I was honest about the fact his wife is infertile, so he is reaching out. I told her everything and reiterated basically everything I said in the post. I told her to think about it. I said I'd support her knowing him, but I affirmed he is not a nice person, and his intentions are not where we would want. She chose to not know him. After I informed him, he got mad. He said I ruined his chance to know her, and that I'm denying her a father. I told him he was the one that did that. My mother told me I shouldn't have poisoned his image to her, that she probably feels rejected all over again and she's probably hurting. I now feel like I have done wrong by her. Am I the a-hole? Edit, she is 16 now. Edit 2, if it wasn't for the infertile wife and lack of college fund or car money, showing evidence he had at least thought about her, then I probably wouldn't have said anything to her about what he is like. But those to me were red flags. Edit 3, frequently asked questions. He never told me he didn't want kids. He didn't tell me he would stick around for the kid when I told him I wouldn't abort before anything. Despite this, I'm not mad he left. I'm mad he returned for the wrong reasons, which could be harmful to my daughter. I'm not answering questions on how I got pregnant, as this is not relevant. The amount of people I've had comment, well, were you on birth control? And the lack of, well, did he wrap it up? If you're trying to find out if I poked holes or lied about taking the pill, I did not. If you're about to accuse of having unprotected sex, again, I did not. Do not ask why I didn't abort my daughter or refer to her as a consequence. This is rude, and you know it. My choice to have my daughter was my choice alone, and is not his fault. Therefore, not relevant. And we're starting the comments with Miss, who says, not the a-hole, you are protecting your daughter from a potentially traumatizing and harmful situation. It is one thing for him to give up parental rights and for it to remain that way, but what he is doing is treating her like she is some sort of trend of the month. What is going to happen when he realizes she is a complex, multi-layered human with a lot of thoughts and feelings, and likely a lot of negative feelings towards him? I wouldn't trust him with properly taking care of an animal, let alone a child. Ditto Head Forever says, part of me wants to say everyone sucks here, because you did poison her views of him. But who could blame you for that? He didn't give a darn for 16 years, and what he did when you were pregnant is indefensible. You didn't deny her a father. He did. He's nothing but a sperm donor and a stranger to her. Maybe someday she will want to know him as an adult, but I can't imagine he will ever be her dad. You are not the a-hole. Sarah Kell says, not the a-hole, he chose not to be a part of her life, paid a minimal amount of child support, painted you as a pariah, and because he and his wife are struggling to conceive, now he's interested in her after 16 years. How convenient, he has a backup child. Now she means something to him. You told her he was interested in pursuing a relationship with her, and you'd support whatever decision she made. He hasn't been around for her entire life, he rejected her. She's well aware of it. You were frank with her, but I feel she needs to know what she's getting into because suddenly she's become a convenience. Had his wife been able to conceive, I wonder if he would have still been interested in pursuing a relationship with her. I feel you did the right thing. Now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. Do you guys think OP did the right thing in this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for spending your time with me today. Listen to a story or two and getting involved in the channel. If you have made it to the end and you haven't clicked that like button, please consider doing so. It really helps out the channel. And don't forget there'll be a couple of playlists at the very end there that you can click on. And it will automatically scroll through the videos for you. So whatever you're up to, bit of drawing, bit of crochet, bit of gardening, bit of cooking, whatever you are, don't forget to let me know as well over on Twitter. I love to see what you're doing whilst you're listening. I know I'm sad like that. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.